Hi, y'all. Okay.
Welcome.
Episode number 79 of
This is Gracie.
A Puppy Trainer Show. Did you want to start or do you want me to read these?
I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. From Halloween Town. How do you get a puppy to stop barking in their playpen, even when they have toys? So sometimes the barking in the playpen could just be more frustration. And I bet you $20 Bethany will say, stop using the playpen. And you're probably gonna need a leash, and you're gonna either need to do a back tie or a tether, and just have a little bit more control over the puppy when they're at the playpen. I wanna give you suggestions for both. I do actually completely agree with that, and she's slowly drawn me into the cause of just leashing instead. But I understand sometimes you can't. I like to do what I call my 3-strike rule as well, which is
wait, let me interrupt you. You won't let me interrupt.
I'm trying my best not to let you.
No, you're like railroading my interruptions. So all I wanted to say is that it's okay. Sometimes the playpen doesn't work for some puppies. Even if you're really diligent, even if you do all the things that I'm going to give you to try, it still may not work. Because there's this frustration. It creates barrier frustration. If you've ever heard about barrier aggression in older dogs, that can happen. It starts with barrier frustration. So that's what you're getting. Okay, go ahead.
And I agree with all that.
Okay.
I just find that sometimes the frustration barking can be something that... Here, you can have her.
She's so cute.
She finally settled down too.
She's so cute.
I find that sometimes you can work a dog through that barking. I like to do my 3-strike rule. Strike 1 is a firm no, some kind of redirect. So no, walk up, try to get the barking to stop for a moment, give them a different toy. I also find that if I have too many toys in the playpen, it creates frustration as well. A dog should only have 1 or 2 toys in there.
And it shouldn't be like the soft, squeaky toys.
Yeah, it should be something that's entertaining, like a Kong with maybe some peanut butter or
a
wet
Nylabone.
food and kibble frozen inside of it. Nylabone, yeah, you can get the flavored Nylabones. And they're not bad for dogs in any way. A lot of that is a good way of helping dogs settle, and that's kind of what I'll swap out and give to them. But I don't want to have 5 toys in there, because 5 toys means they work through every single toy, get frustrated. She's not used to sitting still. Then they get a little bit frustrated, and then they start barking at you. So that's strike 1 is redirection. Strike 2 is a firm no, and then this is body blocking, spatial pressure. So I'll walk up, and I might take that edge of that playpen, just do a single up, down, no, settle down. And most puppies are like, whoa. And the reason why they do that, they're going to give you a little whale eyes. It looks like it's fear, but it's not actually fear. It's surprise that you're willing to escalate to their level and go one above it, because that's like your bark and being like, hey, settle down. And sometimes they back off and you pause for a moment. You don't want to walk away right after, and they get rewarded for it. You freeze. They settle and back off, maybe sit, calmly take a step back, then turn and move away. If that doesn't work, strike 3, take a deep breath. Because it's all about not being angry when you do this.
You not being frustrated or
You, not the dog. The dog's already frustrated. You cannot be, though. And calmly pick up your pup, walk into the crate, put him in, close it, lock it, cover it with the towel, and walk away. And I know a lot of you are thinking, but Sparky, crate can never be a punishment. And you're right, it can't. And a lot of people research it. The reason it's not a punishment is because of how you did it.
Yep.
If it was bad dog, no! House! Crate is house, same thing. You put him in there, that's frustration, that's a punishment.
Even if you're just upset and you're just like, oh, and you just pick the puppy up and you're just like, oh.
They can smell it.
Yeah,
they can smell your frustration.
They can. That's not a joke. They really can. But it's that uppityness in the way you pick your dog up, and just that frustration translates. Be calm and cool and collected. The reason, there's a few other reasons that you could be having this problem that I just want to highlight so you can work on them even if the issue doesn't go away with the playpen. These are things you need to think about in general. So when your dog is barking at you, their brain is in follower mode. They're wanting to follow you around. They're wanting your attention. They're wanting to engage with you. So for me, I'm like, well, then there's no proper no in this puppy's life. And so what you want to look at is kind of what he mentioned, like you could do like a little up down with the gate, or move in and then back out, just to settle your puppy down and take a step back, pause, turn and walk away. But what are you doing when you walk into the room? When you walk into the room, like you get off work and the puppy's out with your family, do you make a big deal when the puppy runs up to you? Because they're anxious, excited from you being gone, and then praising that, and then an hour later putting them in the playpen and expecting them to ignore you. it doesn't sync up for them. It doesn't make sense, because sometimes they get to have that excitement and that excitement anxiety and they get rewarded for it, and then other times not. So I would really look at when you're accidentally rewarding excitement. So I'm not saying that you can't get your puppy excited. I could pull a toy out, or I could just get some food out with Gracie and be like, Gracie, come. Yay, good girl, Gracie. Who's a good puppy?
It's just finding love.
and I could get her excited, but I wouldn't then be done with her and put her in crate or playpen. I would do something to work her back down. So I would probably start by working her for just 2 to 3 minutes more slowly, more methodically on leash. I can still use food, but it's not in an excited way. And I bring them back down. Place is great for this. Are you doing place at home? Because if you want to teach your puppy to settle back for a food reward and really understand when you move into them that they need to back up on a dog bed, that's what we call place, and settle. You need to be practicing that with place, and then it'll help translate into your everyday life. Like when you come home from work and your puppy's out and they're jumping all over you and you're like, hey, settle down, pause, and then you can continue walking, and they just happily walk with you instead of jumping and all that excitement anxiety. They're still happy, but they're not up here, right? So there's all these little moments. Are you cuddling them when they come out of crate in the morning, or getting them, too amped up? Things like that. I just want to make sure your puppy's not dictating the energy in the house, and then you feed into it and praise it, and then you put them in playpen accidentally before calming them back down and helping them understand we're done, not right now. So just keep those things in mind in general, even if the playpen still doesn't work out, because honestly, for some puppies, it just doesn't. So,
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Targeting the brain. That's great.
Giselle Gastelum. I just got a puppy, 3 months old. He's afraid to go outside. He whines even when I take him in the backyard. What do I do? I'm a brand new dog mom. Well, I would say 3-month-old dog. Your puppy's getting 3 meals a day. At least 2 of those meals, start hand feeding in the house with movement work. Now, what I mean by that is we call it the relationship game, but it's honestly just name recognition and come. So I've got Gracie here, so I have all her food in my food pouch, and I take 3 or 4 pieces of kibble at a time, or if you're doing wet food, get gloves and you do the wet food as well. And 3 months old, you might be softening the food with water, so make sure it's spongy, and then you're ready to work. So you're just going to start with, so I'm just going to use Gracie as an example. I'm standing up, I got a handful of a few pieces of spongy food for a young small dog, and I just go, Gracie, and I take a step back, and then I give her the food, down on the ground. Good girl. Gracie, couple steps back. She's looking at me. She's like, what?
Where's my food?
She's licking my hand. And then eventually it's like, Gracie, come, and you move around your house, and eventually you could put a few pieces on the floor while you go to the opposite end of the house. And then when she's done with her last piece, Gracie, come, and pat, pat, good girl, sit. And then you can add in a sit, break, like you can layer on commands. You need to build confidence through a routine that you can then do in the backyard. And if it's bad, it really might be the sliding door open and you're calling her from inside the house, outside the house, back inside, back outside, back inside, back outside. Use this routine that for 3-4 days you did in the house. It's super easy. Then transition it to outside, okay? So you're gonna get in 20 repetitions per meal. So that's at least 40 a day. Then you can layer and sit. Make sure you're then layering as quickly as possible the leash. So that's key, because we want your dog to feel a little bit of leash pressure on the harness, because they're kind of pulling, and then they see that hand go down and they hear you say, Gracie, come, and they remember that, and so they give into leash pressure, and then you relax the leash and they get rewarded. So these are some of the things, just basic leash and basic understanding of leash work, basic obedience routines to build their confidence up. I would definitely start with that. It sounds like you might need to hop on Google and really work on, your basic 3, trainings. I would say place, the relationship game, which is like come, and Sit.
Sit at thresholds.
Oh yeah, we do have that. Sit. Did you say thresholds?
Thresholds?
Well, I meant obedience. I meant like basic obedience to really focus on, to build up an easy routine that can build confidence to do outside. We
then
do
I say
have
sit because you could also use it for thresholds.
Yeah.
Then sit.
Play, sit, and come. We do have an online school. You can go to thepuppyacademy.com and click the online section, and it goes through all of this and so much more, because really that's just the start. Something's going on with your puppy. Maybe you're accidentally convincing or babying the puppy too much, and we'd really need to talk to you one-on-one to get an idea of what's going on in the home. Maybe you're not doing that at all and it's a legitimate fear. That's another reason to get one-on-one help right away. So yeah, can we move on, or did you want to add?
Yes.
Okay,
I just want to mention that the whole thing she's teaching is conditioned confidence.
Yeah.
So then confidence
associated
follows
with
wherever
you.
you go.
Yeah, associated with you. Yeah.
That's how you get outside on walks. That's how you get pretty much everywhere. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you should read this one.
I like this one.
Okay.
Okay, so it's I love to...
No, this one.
Oh, okay, sorry. Princess Monica. I'm pregnant and my Yorkie is starting to go out of his way to pee on everything. What do I do? What?
I'm a pregnant Yorkie
I think
puppy.
it's no, because she mentions the he multiple times. So I think she's saying she's pregnant. I've been looking at it for about 10 minutes trying to diagnose what it meant. So
Okay.
I'm pregnant and my male Yorkie puppy is starting to go out of his way to pee on everything. What do I do?
Oh, okay. It can, because he is trained.
Yeah, it's a boy. It's a
I
boy.
see.
Not a pregnant dog, pregnant human, male dog peeing on everything.
Well, we don't know how old.
I'm so overwhelmed because he is trained.
Yeah,
so
we
don't
don't
have
know how
age,
old.
But usually a big part of this as well is that anytime we have a pregnant human, humans actually let off pheromones. Females let off pheromones, and your dog is probably catching on that pheromone. I'm doing my best because
I know. I'm like,
trying to be
tell us about being pregnant, Sparky. Go ahead.
not even dipping into that one. I'm way too smart for that crap. But you will let out pheromones, and dogs, like female dogs, tend to latch on to owners a little bit more and tend to be right next to them.
Get protective.
Male
get
dogs
protective.
tend to protect the territory, so
Perimeter.
they mark things. They mark areas and be like, hey, this is my space, this is my mama's space, and I'm in charge of it. So if you notice that, if you catch on to that, that is basically when you want to start putting the leash back on your dog and contain them to the area that you're in. They go one way and you kind of know when they're next to you, and if they venture off, you know that's not normal for them. Pick up that leash, guide them back to you. Or have the leash tied to like a little belt loop.
That's what I was gonna say. You don't have a choice. If you're home alone and your dog puppy is out with you and not crated, they need to be tethered to you. You can do a 10-foot leash if you want. 6 foot might be fine as well. Just tie a little knot, or you can get a 10-footer and go all the way around the waist. You don't have a choice. The next thing is more structure. So if you did puppy structure, like crate rotation, things like that, you're gonna need to go back to that a little bit to have a little bit more structure and where he can and can't go, and also have some peace of mind when you can't watch him. So back to a crate schedule, even if you stopped doing it, when he was 4, 5, 6 months old because he was good, you need to go back to it a little bit again. And you want to do that anyway. If you've got a baby coming, you want to do that anyway for a lot of other reasons.
It's going to save you a lot of trouble too.
Yeah, and a lot of stress.
A lot of people also let their dogs go right up to the baby when the baby's very young.
We don't want to get into that, but
I don't recommend that.
Yeah,
I recommend having strong boundaries and helping your pup kind of. Yeah.
Like I said, this is a whole other topic. But anyway, go ahead and start implementing some of that structure routine that you had when he was a lot younger back in. Start looking in your house where you can section off the kitchen with a baby gate or something like that, right? So anyway, keep an eye on that. And sorry, we were just distracted by something, so our brains went outside for a second.
We don't multitask well either.
I multitask really well. I do.
I'm watching 4 things and giving half focus to everything.
So I know it's really challenging and I know it's a pain, but anybody who has issues with potty training, you are just going back to basics, which is structure and being able to watch him, which means he has to be tethered to you or to somebody else in the house. There's just no other option than that. That way you can catch him, as soon as the leg is lifted, you can catch him early. Once he's already streaming pee, You can still try to catch him, but you kind of missed your moment. So that's what's so tough about that.
You're looking for the sniffing, the exploring, and different body language from what you're used to. Especially if you've had your puppy for a little bit, you kind of know that he spends more time in certain areas,
certain spots.
Yeah,
that's what you're looking at. Yeah,
that's when you're on top of it.
And now once you kind of get into a groove, then you got to look at some deep cleaning, because nothing. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anything says in the bottle. Nothing fully gets rid of urine rather than throwing out the old rugs and bringing in some brand new ones. So clean it as best you can, and then once you finally get in a groove with him, bring like a professional in to do a better, deeper clean. But just get your bearings first. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
But the non-negotiable part is got to have a leash on your pup.
Yep.
Without a leash, he'll still explore. You'll never be able to keep full focus on him.
And if this dog was 3 years old, it'd be very similar advice.
Mm-hmm. I love to promen.
Do you have advice on puppy pads when training in an apartment?
Training in an apartment.
I would assume she meant potty training if I said potty pads.
Not everyone assumes that.
You tell me to read these to save time. That's how I save time. If she's using potty pads for training, that would mean potty training.
Potty training.
Okay, everybody. I think everybody's good. We all good? Okay, cool. All right, sorry. I just don't want my double doodle to get used to the pads versus outside. If you have some sort of balcony situation, you could use a grassy patch. That's an option. But
I want to know age. Because if this is a 5-month-old puppy, you just got it and you want to condition him to potty training, potty pads versus outside, you actually don't have to train on potty pads. If they're not under vaccinated and they're actually vaccinated, you don't even have to introduce potty pads. You could just go right outside for all your potty needs. Yeah. And we really recommend getting on a structured schedule. You can DM us one, we'll send one to you. And it basically all revolves around puppy being in crate, coming out, going potty. If he or she doesn't go potty, back in the crate for 10 to 15 minutes for younger pups, 15 to 30 minutes for older pups, like 5 months or older, 4 months or younger for the previous number. And then you just do this over and over again until they eventually potty. But it goes over in more detail in the structure schedule.
And if you have like tinkling issues, stuff like that, like say your pup is to the point where they can hold it pretty decent, but there are still some tinkling issues right when you come home or right out of crate, you can just put the potty pad, around the crate to pick up on those little tinkling issues. Here's the other thing I just want to say. If you want to use both because you live in an apartment, I highly suggest they have different things now. They have like a plastic grass with a tray where the liquid goes down underneath. Hey, settle down. Boo-hooing. Dusty, lay down. I think he's getting into food, upsetting Gracie. That I would invest more in the trays with like the puppy pad or the fake grass on top. I might, if I really wanted this, if I really needed my dog to go inside in the corner of the apartment, if I live in Montana parts of the year and it's freezing to go outside, I'd do a grassy patch in the corner where my potty pad would go. I mean, it's no different. I'd just rather have grass. That's just my thing. And it's kind of his thing too.
I also have one more suggestion too. I've seen one of the coolest things at a recent client's house they live in a very high building and they were not going downstairs every time to go potty.
Understandable. They don't want to go down 15 flights.
But they have like a little hose on their balcony, a hose off the balcony, and they disconnected the hose and they put a grass patch out there. And there's special ones that actually have about that much drainage below and it drains off of the balcony or down the drain, whatever.
Down the drain, not off the balcony.
I don't think the neighbors would enjoy that. I don't know, I haven't lived in a sky racer like that, but probably into a drain or so. And it actually had a little sprinkler on it. So the dog could go potty and then like every couple of days they'd turn on this little faucet and it would moisten the turf and it would actually drain out the urine.
That's super fancy, but they last about a month, basically. Yeah, you get it back then. They last about a month. Okay, cool. All right, so last one is, unless we've got some questions on here, I haven't seen any. I've seen some like smiley faces and stuff. Thank you guys. Okay. Krista says, good morning. Charlie is jumping on people. Any tips for jumping? And then the command come has never sunken in either, unless you have treats. Any tips? Greatly appreciated. Okay, so jumping and the come command. So I'm going to assume adolescent dog, Charlie jumping on people. So the first thing I would say, it's kind of like we mentioned in the first question with the barking and jumping up in the playpen. It's like how much, because there's two things we can do, but it's not really fair if the dog is constantly being rewarded for excitement. So first we have to make sure that's in check. Make sure we're not accidentally, every time the puppy comes up to us and the puppy or dog is really, really excited, and then you're petting the puppy. Or what we see a lot is sit, 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 good, and they're barely sitting, barely holding it together, and then you touch the dog and then they just pop up again. The brain is not calm. It's not about obedience, it's about the brain. So it's not fair to try to demand a sit or try to make your dog be calm if you're rewarding excitement throughout the day without even realizing it. So if I walk into the kitchen from the bedroom and Gracie is out or she's in her playpen and she's like, oh, hi. And I'm like, hi, cutie pie. And then I keep walking, the dog's going to jump up on me. Or if they're in a playpen or in crate, their brain wants to jump up on me and I'm walking away. So I'm creating this anxiety, this excitement anxiety, because the brain is still in follower mode. So just make sure that when your dog is rushing up to you for excitement, just at your presence, that's a no. Hey, settle down. You're fine. Comings and goings are no big deal. Calm down. And you can create excitement later. Like, I'm totally fine with that. I roll around with my dogs. Dusty was in my lap on the couch last night, snuggling. But I make sure that the dog is calm first. And then I can create excitement or snuggling. And then I bring that excitement back down before I move on to something else.
That's the key phrase. Bring them back
down.
After.
Otherwise, it's so unfair. Play, 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 play. And then I just put your toy in the toy box or leave it with you so you can kind of keep yourself riled up for a while and walk away. Well, naturally, when I walk back in the room, the dog is still chomping at the bit to come.
Sorry, go. It was perfect.
So disrespectful. So disrespectful. Okay, so anyway, everybody just keep that in mind in general. Sometimes we're asking these things of our dogs, our puppies, and it's not fair because the rest of the day we're communicating the exact opposite. Every time they come up to us, we're rewarding that. So they're ordering us around to pet them. It just doesn't make sense to them. So please keep that in mind. Okay, so more active stuff you can do is, I don't know if it's jumping up on other people. It kind of sounds like other people. Not to oversimplify it, but there should always be a leash involved. I have 4 dogs, and out of my 4 dogs, 1 is still on a leash when people come over. And that is because it just helps her regulate herself. It's my German Shepherd. So much better. She's about 5 now. And so my big thing is I don't ever go to the door until my dogs are pretty settled. They don't have to be perfectly calm. That's not going to happen. They're excited. But I do need to bring them down. So someone knocks, rings the doorbell, even if it's, especially if it's a package, it's such a great opportunity to practice. It's like, hey, everybody, settle down. All right, you're settled. I have 4. You're settled. You're all okay. I'm going to take a step back. When I take a step back, if they eat up that space, no, move back in. Place, 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 place. Good. Now I go to the door, open it, get my package. If one of them rushes me, which happens sometimes, I like block, get back, go to place. And I practice that kind of foundation. And then when there's someone I'm going to let in on the other side of the door, everybody knows they might have to wait a second just till I settle everybody down. Never open the door to a barking dog or a dog whose nose is right there and you're fighting with them to get back. Never, never, never. It's get back away from the door, settle down, then I grab a leash for my super social German Shepherd. She goes to place. Some of my friends, when they come over, they don't totally listen, and they go, hi, Dakota, and I'm like, oh. And she's like, oh, can I get up? And then sometimes she just gets up, and I let her, and I just kind of grab the end of her leash. And if she looks like she's about to jump up, my friends know the drill by now. I'm like, hey, no, cut it out. A little bit of leash pressure, settle down, which I don't really need anymore, but just having the leash on her, she knows, so it helps regulate her. That's through all the practicing that I've done consistently. But I would never do that if I didn't calm my dogs down halfway first.
Foundation.
Because that's unfair. It's unfair to just let someone in your house when the dog is still like, yes, let him in, let him in, let him in, let him in. You want to make fun of that too? I know you want to. I was going to let it go.
I was going to let that one go. I
but
already got
the
you
dog.
The first one.
The dog's brain can't be in such follower state Otherwise, you're rewarding that, and then you're trying to tell them no for jumping up. It just doesn't work. Now, let's say that they only jump up when they're pet, which is really common when you've done all this foundational work, and it's working, and you're happy, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But then when they are actually pet, they still jump up. There's a few things for that. Make sure people are sitting down first. That's the easiest thing. And that way, if they put their paws up, you can just kind of know and pull them down. But if you really want to have a bigger impact on it, you have to practice. We like to use, if the dog is kind of intense, we like to use pet corrector. It like squirts out air, just goes like that. And so it's like, okay, go ahead and pet my dog semi-calmly. They bend over, they pet. So what happens is when they stop petting and they stand back up, the dog jumps up. So tell your friend or family member to help you out with this. So you go, okay, stop petting. So when they stand back up and the dog starts to jump, no, squirt, pause. Maybe back to place, good. But you're not done. All you did was tell them no, and they're like, why did I get that no? Was it for
proofing?
Was it for being excited? It's like, no, then you release them and they get to be pet again. And they might be a little bit unsure. They're like, is this okay? Am I able to be pet? It's like, yes. You didn't get in trouble for petting. You got in trouble for jumping. And it's doing that 4, 5, 6 times per guest that comes over, or family member, friend that helps you out. Kids are great at taking instruction. Whatever it is, you got to practice that. And then it's kind of the same thing with the recall. You want to start on a long leash. If you've already practiced recall, your next step is to start on a long leash, and you've got food on you, but you're not using food as a lure. So you've got to do regular repetitions, like 10 to 20 in a row. Come good, then reach and pouch, then deliver food. Break, walk around the yard or the house or off the front door, wherever the issue is. You have to do several repetitions in a condensed area in order for it to work. So here's an example. My Border Collie Dusty, I never used a lot of food with him because I got him when he was older and it just wasn't right for him. But I still do repetitions. He's 11, 12 years old, and if I go too long without practicing recall with him in the backyard, he's great everywhere else, off-leash hiking, everything. But the squirrels that torment him in the backyard, every few months I'm like, ugh, I gotta work with my old dog. And so I just do several recalls in a row to really embed that in him, to remind him, to keep him sharp. Commands are not taught and then they magically stay with the puppy forever. You have to continually keep them sharp, but I do it like once every few months with my 11-year-old, very driven Border Collie. With Dakota, my younger, softer dog, I don't even have to do it that much anymore because of all the work I put into the beginning, but we still do proofing. I still throw the ball and recall her off of a thrown ball. I still look for, proofing means I'm looking for distractions to work my dog off of to keep them sharp. So that's really key there. And you can use food in the beginning and then wean off of food and you still have your leash to back you up. You don't ask for something that you can't enforce, okay? So if you go out into the yard and you say come and your dog is like, forget you, be like, okay, I'm gonna stay calm. I'm gonna go in the yard. I'm gonna get my adolescent dog, so I'm guessing this dog is like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months old. And we're gonna go in the house and Mama's gonna take a breath and I'm gonna make that mental note for tomorrow that we're gonna do a 10-minute training session of 10 recalls in a row. Instead, it'll be part of the walk. You know, you don't have to spend extra time, take a chunk of the walk. And we're gonna do that every other day for a month. And we're gonna get this recall down pat instead of me getting very upset. So anytime any of you guys are getting frustrated with your dog, you're probably missing your repetitions, okay?
And proofing.
And proofing, yeah, which is distractions, just to reiterate what proofing is. All right, that was a good one. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Gracie says bye. She's good.